It was probably the best jump scare ever executed.
It was a
honestly.
great jump scare because I did not, just because the tone that you have during that scene, you do not expect
No.
it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today is October 24th, part of our 31 Days of Halloween. Today's episode is a movie that is so interesting and so just has such a very, very unique story, very unique take in the horror genre, very, very good movie that kicked off an entire production studio, pretty much. I'm talking about Insidious. Insidious is just a delight, especially if you haven't seen these movies. Like, this is this very special treat. It is got some of the greatest jump scares that I've seen in my time. And I think that this is definitely more than welcome to be on this list this year. So before we dive too far into today's episode, I just want to remind everyone, please hit that like and subscribe button down below, or go over to patreon.com/thecalvincam. Join one of our 3 tiers over there. Really helps us out. But yeah, so Insidious is just an awesome movie directed by James Wan, and stars one of my favorite actors, Patrick Wilson, as well as many other talented cast. And I think that everybody's performance in this movie, including the child actors, was brilliant. I think that it was done perfectly. I love this movie. So, Anthony, this was your first time watching this film?
Oh, this film got me really good, but I'll go into a little bit on detail on that later. Let's talk about the things that I liked about this movie from the start. This movie's credits are brilliant. Yeah. I mean, they really set the tone for this film. Like, the eeriness of this film, the music composed, and just how the credits, I think they fog in, they use those VFX, and it's just really good. It sets the tone for this movie, and like, okay, this is going to be a deep horror movie just from the very start. And yeah, all the performances in this movie are great. Okay, this movie stars Rose Byrne. Patrick Wilson's the father, right?
Yep.
And we have Barbara Hershey, which is she plays in The Entity. I've known her from that movie, a brilliant movie back in 1982. So this movie is great. It starts out, you have this family, and this family is experiencing paranormal things during the time in this house. And for some reason, one of her sons goes into a coma, which they think it's a coma. He's not responding. Mm-hmm. And all those things. And then she keeps, during the progression in this movie, they start seeing more things happening. Yeah. Like just a whole bunch of entities moving in the house. Yeah. And that leads to, they think that the house is haunted and they want to move out. So they move to another house, and it basically follows them to that house. But the catch is, the son, they get like a paranormal research team to come to the house and do all these things, and they tell the story, and it's just really hard for Burns character to believe it, like, and him to believe it, Patrick Wilson's character, that it's not the house, it's their son is in another haunted. He's possessed, or he's in another dimension of the dead. And like Calvin said, this movie has a lot of good jump scares. Like, it got me so many times in this movie. Like, there's a great jump scare. Like, the one that get me the most is there's this demon-like character. When there's a scene where Barbara Hershey's talking about the situation, and all of a sudden you get this nice audio transition and you get the jump scare at the same time. That one just like got me out of my seat. Like, it got me really good. So yeah, the dimension, apparently, that Patrick Wilson's character has like had night terrors before when he was a kid. So it's kind of like it's tied in somehow.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me a lot of like, Nightmare on Elm Street a lot, just because it's like this dimension that exists when you're experiencing like sleep paralysis. It's like you're not it's not necessarily that you're dead, it's just like it's in between the life and death, which is sleep. So um basically it all ends with like Patrick Wilson um going into this dimension to save his son, basically. And it's a whole really deep like process of figuring out what they need to do, because with throughout the film, with all of the paranormal things that happen, the team that they hire discovers that this place is like that their son is truly haunted, and it's not necessarily that it's even a normal haunting. It's like there's a demon after him, um, a demon with a red face, and like it's just some of the coolest like um scenes that I've seen in a movie, like when they are up in the boys' room and she's like looking around and then she sees the demon, but you as the audience, you don't see the demon. Like, and she's just describing what she's seeing, and her partner is just like drawing it. And then like you see the drawing and it's just the demon in the corner. Like it's just so eerie and awful. And then later on, even when they're at the table and there's that jump scare where the demon's behind Patrick Wilson's face, like is like I remember watching that when I was in high school, and I freaked out. Like
It was probably the best jump scare ever executed.
it was a
honestly.
great jump scare, because I did not, just because the tone that you have during that scene, you do not expect
No.
it. So like you're just like, oh, we're getting information, and then just like randomly fuck. Like, all right. I had like a heart attack when I saw that the first time. But also I really like the demon design. I think it's really cool, and I like the idea of this like ghost dimension. I think that's also really, really cool.
I liked
and-
all the VFX too. Like you remember when he moves across the wall, he's like,
Yeah.
like a pitter patter, like little smoke effect of him moving across the wall and stuff.
Yeah, and then you have one of the most like eerie famous, recently famous. I mean, it's probably not recently, but recently in this generation's famous song where it's like tiptoe through the window. Like it's just really eerie music, and it really adds to just the whole like creep factor for this whole film. And I think that I think James Wan did a fantastic job putting all of these elements together and making a new modern horror movie that I think will sit with you for the rest of your life. Like this is a true movie, and this movie spawned like multiple sequels. I mean, we're not talking about them. I think the first two are really good, and then like the fifth one is pretty good just because it comes back to these original characters. But 3 and 4 are just like, all right, they're just spin-off, like kind of. I mean, they have loose connections, but they're good. But yeah, like this, I mean, this movie really started a whole new genre, generation for horror, and I think that is worth noting. Um, I mean, yeah, I highly recommend it. I wouldn't turn anybody away from seeing this movie unless you're really young. It is rated PG-13, but even then, I think it's still like almost too scary. But that's just my opinion. If I were to rate this movie, I would give this movie. This is one of my favorite James Wan movies. I give this movie a 5 out of 5. I love this movie. This is one movie that I like to watch over and over every year. So, what would you give? What would you give this movie?
I also did like this movie. We do this all the time. This is a 5 as well. I know James Wan from The Conjuring. We did The Conjuring as our first episode last year. I know him from that and that series, and he just kills it in this movie. I think this is a brilliant movie by him. Just down to the acting, the writing, just everything about this movie is good. The cinematography, the VFX, everything about it is great. So it's a 5.
All right. Well, let's do some fun facts before we end the episode today. Fun fact number 1, the film was shot in just 3 weeks. That's really quick. That's like 20-something days.
Just like all the ones that are shot that are good.
The film was originally going to be named The Further. Oh, yeah, because that's what she calls it, is The Further. The Dimension. So that's cool. 33 violins were used for the theme of this music, and you can definitely hear it. Like, it's very piercing. In 2015, there was an Insidious-themed maze at Universal Studios Orlando for the annual event of Halloween Horror Nights. The maze was based on the 3 Insidious films released at that time. In 2024, there was another Insidious-themed haunted house at Halloween Horror Nights Orlando and Hollywood, featuring all 5 movies. So that's cool.
That is really cool.
James Wan, who directed both this film and Insidious Chapter 2 and The Conjuring 2, had The Conjuring in mind. While directing the first Insidious movie, a number of coherent points can be spotted in both the first and the second Insidious movies.
That's really cool. Love Easter eggs.
Ethan Hawke turned down the role of Josh Lambert, which ultimately went to Patrick Wilson. Hawke would later appear in Sinister. Not only do Insidious and Sinister use a negative adjective as a title, both are also supernatural horror movies produced by Jason Blum, in which both Hawke and Wilson are the head of their respective families, who move into a house that is haunted by a strange entity that specifically targets children.
That's cool. Even if Ethan Hawke played that character in Insidious opposed to Patrick Wilson, I think he would have been awesome too.
Oh, yeah. This movie owes more than a little to the 1982 movie Poltergeist, as although there are many original ideas, there are also many similarities in the plot and the characters. At approximately 1:08, the movie acknowledges the influence with a kitchen worktop and steak homage.
Cool.
Specs talking about using the events in the book he is writing is an in-joke. Leigh Whannell, who played Specs, was actually the film's writer.
That's really cool.
And one more for you. The scene where Rose Byrne goes up in the attic, is startled by rustling furniture up there, and then suddenly there's a flare in the middle of nowhere. This was all lifted directly from The Exorcist. So is the scene where the Dalton hits Specs across the face, flinging him across the room.
That's cool.
So yeah, awesome. If you're curious to know more fun facts, you can always go online, check out a lot of fun facts about this movie. There's a long list on there, but this is Insidious. Go watch it. And thanks for watching our episode today. So we will catch you on tomorrow's episode.
See you tomorrow.